the finale of chapter 25, one of the most dramatic events that's happening to David. And we see a change in David's management, in David's policy. Remember, he's been on the run for a long time, although we don't know the amount of time, that's not substantial. But in spite of the fact that in the last chapter, Shaul reconciled, there was a reconciliation here, there's peace was made, admission to the kingdom of David, yet David is still hiding out. Apparently suspicious that Shaul is not getting better, he's not changing his policy, and as a result, David is hiding out somewhere in the southern Hebron Mountains in Midbar Paran. And next to Midbar Paran is the Hebron Mountains, and there we're told about a VIP, a very wealthy man called Naval, married to a woman called Avigail. And we see that in spite of the fact that he's probably well informed about who David is and how he's a great star militarily, although he may not know that he's one to be anointed, but maybe he does. That's what David is expecting. After we're told in a lengthy speech by David to his men that here, why are they going to Naval? I want, maybe it's clear to all of you. They're hiding out in the desert. They don't have facilities. They don't have food. Naval is a wealthy man. Why are they connected to him? Because some of the men of David, his supporters, have been giving support, choma. They've been a defense, a protection, a guardianship for the sheep of this VIP guy called Naval. And they've helped him out, protected his sheep and done this and that. So he thought he would knock on the door. At what time? At the time that he has a Yom Tov. What time does he have a Yom Tov? He's sharing his, 3,000 heads of sheep. It's sharing time. And it's a time where he's going to have a lot more wealth. And he's probably making a big party. It won't be hard for him to give tzedakah. He's turned down. In the Pshat, we see that the 10 messengers that are sent to Naval are not even given a cup of coffee. Okay? That's what it seems. We'll see a different understanding according to Chazal, Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah in a moment. What happens to David when his 10 guys come back and tell him that me David, me Ben Yishai, that as if he's not even honored, he's dishonored, he's talked down, he's belittled, he's cheapened. We see a change in David's reaction. David is mad. We never saw that before. Not only is he mad, but he says, okay, everyone get their arms and we're going. Where are we going? We're going to go him. He wants to probably slew the entire house. His wife, his kids, everyone. We thought, to understand the reaction of David, that he's considering himself like a king already. Or Shaul said, you're the next king. He admitted to it. In their last meeting, where David could have killed Shaul, but he did not do. He acted with extra chassidut, extra saintliness. And now we see a different management. Unlike the restraint of David in past times vis-a-vis Shaul or other occasions, now they're grabbing their arms. He's apparently made a court, as the Gemara does explain, with all his people and said, this guy, Naval, deserves death. And they're out to kill him in his entire house. Maybe his wife and children, everyone else are an accomplice. Maybe he's trying to get a message across. This is not the way to treat a king. He's on his way. And who heard about this terrible incident? His wife, Avigail, the father of happiness. She's different. She's different than this villain husband who's Naval Shimon. That's the way he acts, like a villain. He's so despicable. And when she hears the entire story from the servants that are of her husband, and she can't believe that not only did he turn them down, he disrespected David, she gathers up a heap full of food and wine and dried fruits and dried grains and toasted grains, and she's going there to feed 100. Beseter Har, the valley, coming down the mountain, she meets with them, she gets off of her chamor, she goes down to the floor, she submits herself with tremendous modesty and humility, and she now goes ahead and tells David off. You shouldn't even give heed Again, she says, I am amatcha, I'm your maidservant. And she takes an oath in God that what I'm doing right now is stopping you from killing us. That's a good thing. Why? Because she's so shrewd and she's so smart. She says, look, it's not in your interest to wipe out a family. It's going to be bad news. She's holding apparently that David is really yet to be acting as a king. Therefore, it's unright. Ill, for instance, and he starts calling, cursing you out. What are you going to react to him? Someone got mad at me today on the road. We were in a traffic jam coming in from the towns of the north of Binyamin, and there was an opening to the right, so I passed him to the right, and it was traffic, we're bumper to bumper for 35, 40 minutes. And he got mad at me. I don't know what I got mad. He started honking his horn. So, what, I got one car in front of you? Is that what you're mad at? I said, come. I stopped. Come pass me up. If there's no reason to be mad at something so silly. And we have to work on our midot. Certainly we see on driving on the roads, we can see how we're working on our midot or not working on our midot. What's the purpose of getting angry? I passed you up on one car. No, nonsense. She's saying, don't react to a person who's a ish belial, a man without faith, a man that is so despicable. Don't do that. She is saying further, you're going to get the bracha, you're going to be the king. The fact she's saying you're going to be the king, that means she holds that he's not the king. And her argument is so convincing that she turns David's army around, that they're not going to go ahead and wipe out not Avigail, her, and not Naval and the family and so on and so forth. And here we see David's reaction, which is he's ready to say, I'm not taking any more garbage here anymore. He's been so restrained vis-a-vis Shaul, and now he started to show forces. She's saying, no, it's not the time yet. And it's going to work against you. It's going to work against you. In our last words, let's read it again in Pasuk Lamed Aleph. If you're going to wipe out the family right now, it'll be for you a kishalon. It'll be a tremendous failure. And a stumbling block of the heart, laduni. That's what you're going to do? You're going to wipe out people with innocent blood? I'm sorry. Don't worry, God will do good with you. You're going to get reward for this. And I want you to remember you're a maidservant. I'm your maidservant. Here's a wealthy woman, the wife of this wealthy man called Naval, and she continues to submit herself, but she's making the point, you're not going to want to kill people right now. This is going to work up against you. This is going to be a blemish on your career. People are going to talk about it. Okay? And then, like we read at the end of yesterday's shiur, Vayomer David Avigail. She's called Avigail here. Maybe her name was pronounced Avigail. For whatever reason, the yud was taken out. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael asher shlechecha yom hazeh lekrati. Admission. Isn't that amazing? David, who's so sharp, who's so bright, who's so wise, who's writing psalms, who has prophecy. When he sees a right thing in this woman, he gives her a bracha. And we said, he blesses her in three ways. The fact that you were sent to me. Number 2, Lamed Gimel, Uvaruch Tamech. And blessed is your reasoning, your logical thinking. Uvruchat, and you're blessed. Why? Because you stopped bloodshed today. An amazing admission. Okay? Your reasoning is good. So here we see David, when he sees something right, even if it's a woman, doesn't make a difference. You see his tremendous humility. Tremendous humility. He admits to the truth. You saved me from bloodshed, innocent bloodshed. Thank you. Blessed may you be. And he gives her this 3-faceted bracha. Okay? I was angry before. I was ready to kill you, wipe you guys out. And because of you, I made a switch. Okay? And because of you. However, Ve'ulam, David takes an oath in 34 Lamed Daled. Remember the the text for taking an oath, Chai Hashem, by the life of God. By the life of God, the Gemara says, is a shavua, an expression of an oath. V'ulam Chai Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Hashem mena'ani mehara otach. He's taking an oath because he wants to swear in order to show appreciation that in her merit, in her quickness and alertness, he was saved. Asher mena'ani mehara otach, you're the one that prevented me from doing bad to you. Kilulei mihart. I mean, it was because she was so fixed, so fast. She got on a donkey, brought all these foods to support them, and she changed her mind in thinking. Okay, is he here? You see a minister? No. Okay. Tell him to close the door. Let's go. Okay. Vatavo likrati kim notar lenaval ador aboka mashtim bakir. He says literally, I was ready to wipe out everyone, even a dog that urinates on the wall, or every child that's in this farm. So here he makes the total admission of thanks. Now, how do they depart? Lamed Hey. For now, we have the last 10 psukim of the chapter. Very interesting finish. Veikach David miyada. Look, David has to feed his hundreds of people. So he takes more than, it's not just a gift wrap package, it's a lot of food, wine, kernels of wheat. So it's called miyada, but it doesn't touch her hand, of course. There's still modesty. Et asher hivialo vela amar. Now he gives her a bracha. Alila shalom levetech. Why does he tell her to go home? Re'i shamati v'kolech v'sapanayich. Look, she has a husband, and right now, what's happening at home? There's a big party. Sharing 3,000 lambs. That's a lot of wool coats and carpeting and clothing. So they're making a big party, and may you have shalom going back. She's traveling alone, maybe. No. She came with a lot of people in front, right? She came with a lot of people, with a lot of donkeys, a lot of trucks. And he says to her, Re'i, look, I want you to know how important you are. I listened to what you told me. Re'i shamati b'kolech. But now he says something that's a promise, like, Ve'esa panayich. I'm going to show favor to you. Okay? What we call maso panim. I'm going to show favor to you in the future. It doesn't say what. We'll see how things develop. Now, let's go to the mishteh of Mr. Naval, and we're going to ask ourselves, as we're going to read now Lamed Vav, what matter does the Tanakh have to describe at length about the party of Naval? Let's read it. Vatavo Avigail el Naval. She comes home. V'ine, you know what's happening now? Surprise. V'ine lo, for him, mishteh. He has a party. Where? Beveito. How big? Kimishteh melech. Wow. Just, like a banquet of a king. And how does he feel? Well, let's interview him. V'leiv Naval tovlo. He's really in good spirits. He started out with a great feeling, good at the party, but then he had a few drinks. And was Johnny Walker there? What he had there, I'm not sure. V'ushikor. Wow, then he became drunk. How drunk? Ad meod. Wow. It was one drink after another. And now she makes a decision. Velo higidalo davar katon vegadol ad or aboker. Why is the Tanakh sharing with us what's happening here on the ranch by Naval? It seems that she is very sharp. She reads the map. She sees the situation. Right now, is it a big time of simcha for him? So much that he's already overdoing. He's drinking booze and he's getting drunk. Right now, she doesn't want to mess up the situation for her husband, Naval. She doesn't want to say, do you know what I just did? Do you know who is on his way to kill you? She doesn't at all share with this matter whatsoever. What? David went back, and now she's going back to the ranch. Now, it could very well be that she's scared that if she tells her husband while he's had a few drinks, he might do something drastic, because says she koru ma'od. Maybe he might be angry at her. What did you go meet him with? Why did you bring all the food there? Okay? Or it could just be a very practical matter, let him ride, I'll tell him in the evening. And anyway, maybe that's the reason why the Tanakh is telling us to the extent of the banquet. There's so much food and drink there, you would never notice that, the tens of kilos of food that she had brought for David and his hundreds of supporters, you wouldn't think that right now there's at all any lacking at the party. It's not because she brought goods over and it's lacking. No, the mishteh is fantastic. There's plenty of food. There's no lacking whatsoever. Now, let's see what happens the following morning. Pasuk Lamed Zayin. The reaction of Naval. Vayiva Boker. Okay, he's after his hangover, I assume. B'tzeit hayayim Naval. There you go. There's no more wine in him. He's had a hangover. She shares with him what she does. She's a proper wife. I saved your life. I went to David. I was able to make a reconciliation. I won his sympathy. I explained to him logically what he's doing is the wrong thing, but you muffed it up. You were causing David to come right now and massacre you. And I brought for them tons of food to supply them what he asked from you. That's what she says to him. What's the reaction? Cardiac arrest. Vayamot libo bikirbo. Inside, although it's metaphorical probably, okay? But he's starting to feel bad. Vehu haya la'aven. Now, what does it mean? If you read Rashi, Rashi says clearly that this guy is a cheapstick. He felt so bad that his wife brought over this mincha, this gift, this tremendous gift to David that, what? Like he can't move. He's like a dead person, he's like a stone. That's one meaning. Whereas the Radak says, he's like suddenly like in shock, almost like a dead person and he can meet. Or the Abarbanel says,
what his wife did?
Yes, what his wife did. What his wife did.
I mean, yeah, but like, because she gave away all this.
That's the fact. That's Rashi. According to Radak and the Abarbanel, what? I was in danger that my life was going to be taken? Wow. He was suddenly in shock and he turns like a stone. Now, this is only the beginning, because what happens during the duration of the next coming days? Pasuk Lamed Chet 38. Vayihi ka'aseret hayamim. Vayigof Adonai et Naval vayamot. Wow. What do we notice here in this pasuk? And what does it arouse in us to ask a question? Why 10 days? Not next. How is that related to 10 servants? It says ka'aseret. It doesn't even say 10 days. It says ka'aseret. Why does it say like 10 days? Okay? Is it metaphorical for something less? Why does the Tanakh use the term ka'aseret? What else? What else do we notice? Oh, Hashem is bringing punishment right here. So what's going on? He dies. And he's brought a midah keneged midah. Okay? How is this a midah keneged midah? He didn't want to part with his own resources for, and if not to help others. You had an ideal time to do charity. Furthermore, we'll talk about the 10 days. One opinion of the Gemara is these are the 10 days of tshuva between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And God gave him a chance to turn around, to do a new start. And he didn't. That's one meaning, that he had the chance to do tshuva. Another meaning is, the Gemara says in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, unlike the Pshat does not hint to it, he did feed the 10 guests of David with some food. The Talmud says, Bishul Eser Ligimot. He gave them a little nash, a little. And M&M chocolate, I don't know exactly what, but he gave them. Pesach Zman, you know what I'm talking about. In the army, you only eat Pesach Zman, right? How many did you eat? Too many. There you go. Pesach Zman. The Chayalim like it. So, it seems that in addition to the first opinion, he did feed them for something. You know what? That delayed That was the delay button. Why didn't he die right away? Because he did some chesed. He gave them some food, but not much more. Okay, not much more. So in Sachakol, we have an understanding here that he was given some time to do tshuva, but he didn't do it. The reason in the number 10 days are passing is because he did feed the 10 people. He gave them one meal for 10 of them. And therefore maybe God hit the delay button and didn't allow him to die for the terrible thing, because gave him a chance to do tshuva. Now, let's see now the reaction of David. David gets the news of the passing away, okay? The passing away of Naval. Now, if I ask these two tzaddikim that just walked into Shur, they were probably occupied doing a mitzvah, that's why they're coming in now. And therefore, they were exempt from doing another mitzvah. You're David Amela. You're a David to be the king. Yeah, you. I'm interviewing you right now. One of your enemies, right? This is for ABC News. Okay. Now, you heard that this Jew that you approach is a very wealthy guy who refused to feed you and your supporters. You found out that he died after he told you a big no, I'm not going to feed you. Are you happy or not? You're David HaMelech. Are you praising Hashem for his passing away or not? No. Why?
I don't know. He's alive, taken.
Hashem took him away. And it's clear, it seems, that he just dies now. He was a healthy guy. We didn't see, he wasn't suffering from, cardiovascular problems for the last 10 years. Naval, who refused to pay or do charity and give David and his supporters money, rather cursed him out and despised him, after his wife Avigail saves his life by appeasing, making shalom with David and feeding him. 10 days later, the guy dies. It's clear that, he's a villain. Would David be happy hearing about his passing away or not? You would be.
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's an honest answer. Now, I think we're all going to be surprised to see. You would think that a Jew would react hearing about a fellow Jew dying. Even if you're your enemy, you wouldn't be happy, would you? Let's see what David says. Pasuk Lamed 39 of chapter 25. Vayishma David. He hears the news. Ki meit Naval. Vayomer, he makes the following sentence. Baruch Hashem. Blessing God. Asher what? Asher rav et riv cherpati miyad Naval. Miyad Naval. I'm stopping there. Number one, for thanking God, and we're going to have to find an answer. Why is David blessing God for taking someone else's life away? Because, you know what David says? Part of the great humility of David is he told it to show, let God take revenge if there's need to take revenge. Let God judge between he and me. I'm not going to do anything to touch the anointed of God. And that's how David has been managing himself vis-a-vis Shaul. And here, he's thanking God for what? Interfering and doing the din. Because David, remember, was on his way to do din. So thanking first God for what? You doing the din and not me. Because what was I about to do? He's thanking God. Vetavdo chasach me'ra. You saved me from. And you know what? You did the wiping out for me, for the bad things he did to me. Wow. A very interesting expression here of David, that he's thanking for God interfering and taking his life. And you know what? That's the way to go. And now an interesting thing happens. Vayishlach David, Vaydaber b'Avigail, lekachta lo leisha. Mazal tov. True or not? Is she allowed to be married to him?
Yeah.
She's from Yud. She's a widow, an almanah.
Isn't that thing supposed to wait sometimes?
Excellent question. Very nice. The Talmud said, you understand this question? We don't know if she's pregnant or not. Maybe she's pregnant from Avigail. So the Talmud says, and about this as well, that he waited 3 months to have relations with her to make sure to see that indeed she's not pregnant from Avigail. And well, Avigail, she's a very sharp woman. She's courageous. She's a go-getter. she humbled herself before David. Remember, to see the great humility of her, let's see how she reacts to David sending shlichim. Pasuk mem al. I'm sorry, which we're up to? Pasuk mem, verse 40. Okay. Now, it said in the last pasuk that he sends a shaliach, right? Vaishlach David vayidibra Avigail. He wants to marry her. They arrive. They come to the farm. Pasuk mem, verse 40. Vayavo avdei David el Avigail Carmela. That's where the home is. Carmel is the home. Ma'on is where the industry is, where all the thousands of heads of sheep. Vayidabru elei lemor. They give the message over to her. David shlachanu elayach. To do what? Lekachtech lo leisha. In other words, they're proposing. The shlichim of David have arrived on their horses or donkeys, whatever. David would like to marry you. What does she say? Pasuk Mem Aleph, verse 41. Okay? Fatakom fatishtachu apayim arza. She doesn't say a word. She gets up from where she was sitting, and she now bows down to the ground. She goes straight to the ground. Vatomer, and then she says, in front of who? The shlichim. Hine amatcha lishivcha lirchotz raglei avdei adoni. The reaction of her is number one, when she sees the shlichim of David offering marriage, she gets up in front of the shlichim and she bows down on the ground. In other words, her behavior, her reaction, as if who's standing in front of her? It's as if David himself is standing in front of her. So much humility, so much submission, submitting herself in front of the greatness of David. And she says, she doesn't say anything about, I'll accept the marriage. But what does she note? I'm your servant. Look at two words. What can I do? I can wash his feet. In other words, you have to see a greatness of a person. A person is always tried at different times, at different settings of his life. When she had to be a fighter to save herself, her skin, and her husband, she took the immediate initiative, and she went fast, and she brought food, and she rode on the chamor. She intercepted David, and she stopped him with hardcore logic that you're making a mistake by doing so. You're not yet a king. This is going to be a flaw in your personality, in your history. It's going to be a bloody story about you wiping out everyone here in my family. Whereas, there's a time for submission. There's a time for humility. She hears that he wants to marry her. Who am I? I'm nothing. She goes down to the dust of theirs. What am I good for? Maybe I can wash his feet. Wash his feet. We don't understand these concepts of... So humble, amazing. So here we see her behavior, her words, as if David is standing before her. She's basically saying, I'm not worthy to be the wife of David. And that's great anava. So you see that she knows her place. A person has to know his place or her place in every different setting, how to act, how to behave, when to be taking the initiative, when to be restraining, and how to act. And she apparently has all these great attributes. And who saw this? David. Now, is David married?
Yeah.
What's his wife's name? The prize from beating Goliath? Michal, very good. Michal. Is he allowed to marry another person, another woman? According to Torah law? Of course. Dirabanan, Takanat Rabbeinu Gershom. One is enough, and I can tell you from experience, one is enough. It's enough to handle one. It's that you got to be on the ball to think how to act and what to say, what not to say, how not to insult. Okay, you got that? Very good. He's a fugitive. You're right.
Wait, but didn't Shmuel already give him to another man?
Oh, that's going to happen now in two verses. You read ahead. You're accused of reading it.
No, I didn't. I know the story. That's why I'm asking. I thought it already happened.
Okay. So, gentlemen, let's see the consummation of the wedding. Pasuk Membet, again we see this interesting verb, vatimaher. She hurries. Vatakom Avigail, she gets up. Vatirkava lachamor, look at all this action. She's hurrying, she's getting up, she's running on the chamor. But she takes 5 of her maidservants. V'chamesh na'aroteh, ha'olchot leragla. Okay, she has 5 girls that are going to her feet, walking with her, respecting her, serving, whatever, because she's going to be like almost a first lady. Fatelech acharei malachei David. It's a trip going to the Paran Desert, as we learned. Mazal tov, fatihilo lisha. She's taken in, she becomes the wife of David, which is a big thing. What's happening elsewhere at the same time? He has another wife. Pasuk Mem Gimel. David has great capabilities. Is not like, is not like us in our generation. He has the ability to give heed, attention, sensitivity, love, taking care of, supporting several wives at the same time. Mem Gimel. Vet Achinoam. We don't know anything about her right now. Lakach David May from where? Me Yisrael. Where do you think? Where have you heard? Where is Yisrael?
It's a well. Next to
Under the Gilboa mountain, right? Right? So this is not the Israel of that place. There are apparently 2. It doesn't make sense for us as students of the Tanakh to understand that he's going far north, towards the Beit Shan Valley, and taking another wife. But it's likely that it's in the region of Yehuda. And therefore, that's what the commentators explain, that this woman is from Yisrael, somewhere in the mountains of Yehuda, but not the valley of Yisrael. And now, the Tanakh gives us a sum total. Vatiana gam shteihem lo lenashem. So now, both of them are wives. Why do we have to say that shteihem lo lenashem? So the Radak says, you, the guy with the kippah. You just mentioned that he has Michal as a wife. Okay? So it shouldn't say shteihem lenashem. It should say shloshtam are his wives. And now the next pasuk comes into play, which is the finale of the chapter, at least according to the breakdown here. V'Shaul natan et Michal bito eshet David. To who? Lefalti ven Laish asher migalin. It's a place north of Yerushalayim, apparently in the Binyamin area. And he gives his wife, David's wife, Michal, to another man.
How's that possible?
What's your problem?
She's married.
So what?
Married to someone else.
Is that right? Exactly, that's the question. Isn't Michal an Eshet Ish? If she's an Eshet Ish, halachically married, is there any way to be Mekadesh Ota, to marry her? So what's going on? What's sir? She needs to get a divorce, exactly, in order for Kiddushin to be able to be applicable. So this is really a tough question. Chazal, we're very troubled with this, and there are several answers. One simple answer that the Radak brings is that David issued her a get. Ever since, David has been a fugitive, and he's been on the run, which we don't know exactly if it's a half a year, or even more years. Do you remember who allowed him to escape that day? It was Michal, out the window, out through the Choma. He hasn't been able to be a husband because he's on the run. She's living somewhere here, next to the Capitol Hill of Givat Shaul, the real Givat Shaul, Piskat Zev today, more or less. And that's where she's living, but David can't be with her. So maybe, some way, somewhere, he gave her a get without Tanakh mentioning this point. Right. So it'll mean, very good question, it'll mean that she was the Eshet David. Another thing is that, why is it, if it's happening now, why is it happening now?
Because he's got to become king. He doesn't want her to be in his kingdom.
Or is this another proof that the disengagement between Shaul and David has now reached a new stage? It could be that she was given a get maybe earlier, months ago, a year ago, or 2 years ago, or something which I'm going to tell you in a moment. But why does Shaul execute this now? What is Shaul showing by giving away his wife to someone else? That he doesn't want to be connected to him whatsoever. And this is proving the theory that we said at the beginning of this chapter, that in spite of the reconciliation between Shaul and David, David doesn't trust. And therefore he remains hiding out in the southern Hebron Mountains, the Negev called the Paran Desert. Time after time again. And even though he admitted verbally, with this, as if his whole heart, but we see David doesn't trust, and he keeps on running away. So maybe now we've reached a new stage of this netek, of this nituk, between Shaul and David, that he sends his wife away. The Gemara deals at length that, and we see a lot of cases today in the rabbinical courts, that if there's a problem regarding another, there's a mistake made in the Kiddushin, and if there was a mistake made in the Kiddushin, and Shaul found out about it, now he followed through. She is not an Eshet Ish, she is a Isha Pnuya, and she's free to receive Kiddushin. There are a few ideas that are in the Talmud regarding this matter, but it seems that maybe if it's happening now, Shaul sees that David is not taking care of his daughter. David is not married to his daughter. He's taking other wives. He just married Avigail. He married a woman called Achinoam. And therefore, he suspects the honor of his wife, of his daughter. And therefore, this is the time to do it. But again, it's based upon two Gemarot that talk about that maybe it was Kiddushei Te'ut, that he was Mikadesh B'milva. It's a hard story, but I think it's very important for us to know about these things. Now, in your Tanakh, may I?
Yes.
I think this, we're going to find it here, according to the Masorah. No. So, there is a Masorah, a tradition, that maybe here, I'm sorry. Where is it? Yeah. It doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen here either. There is a Masorah, a tradition, that the chapter only ends at one pasuk earlier, and as if verse 44 is a prelude, okay, to the next matter. And now we'll see how it really indeed can be connected one to another. Vayavo zipim, for zipim, el Shaul hagivata lemor, halo David mistater begivata chachila al penei ayeshimo. What is the connection with this opening pasuk that we're reading now, and the former pasuk about David's wife being given away to a person called Palti ben Faish? Who are we reading about again? The Zipim. They're living in the Zipim desert, which we said before, surprisingly, they're part of the Judean tribe. And what do we see? That they continue to be what? Against David. They're bad-mouthing, they're tattletaling, and they're informing Shaul. They're traveling from the Judean desert somewhere, all the way to Benjamin area, going north of Yerushalayim. And they're letting Shaul in, not just on where he is, which position, but he's B'Kivata Chachila, by the edge of the desert, the desolate place. They're giving exact instructions. What is this showing? That they know, together with Shaul, that his objective is still what? To get at David and kill him. That's what he wants to do this. In other words, it's clear to us that in spite of the reconciliation made in the former chapter, that Shaul honored David, Shaul respected, he admitted to his kingdom, he's not acting that way. He can't change his heart. He can't get out of this rut of this evil spirit inside him, and he wants to kill David, and they know about it. And it just shows that Shaul, that's why he gave away his wife. He wants to show total disengagement, total disconnection between Shaul. The closest thing to a man is his wife. That she's been given away. Why wasn't she given away before? If she was if there was no kiddushin or there was a get involved, right now Shaul is acting on disconnection as much as possible. Now, is this the first time we're reading about the Zifim? No. Pasuk bet. Vayakam Shaul vayered al midbar Zif v'ito shloshet alafim ish b'churei. So meaning his combat unit, his b'chirim, his top unit that he has. Levakesh et David Marzif. Gentlemen, sounds like a replay, doesn't it? What we're learning now is like parallel to what we learned a few chapters ago in chapter 24. What are the parallel matters? Who are the informers? Zifim. What is David doing? He's hiding. And number 3, where is he hiding? In the same Midbar Zif. And how many soldiers of Shaul are activated or mobilized? 3,000. That's a chativa. Is it a chativa?
They're looking for him again?
Again, to kill him.
Shaul changed his mind.
It's a chativa. He's taking 3,000 of top soldiers to go up against it.
Do we know how many David has?
David has 600 supporters. There's no chance. Even if this guy trained him. He's a special trainer. Okay? David has 600 supporters of low-life people that never made in society, people that had problems in society, and they joined them because David also has a big problem in life. We'll continue at this point.